Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Leah McAdoo with Infowars.com. We're here in Cleveland covering the Republican National Convention. I am seated next to Captain Clay Higgins. Now, you just got done doing an interview with The Alex Jones Show, a really great interview. And now I wanted to get the chance to sit down, talk with you a little bit. Of course, you might recognize this guy from those viral Crime Stopper videos. You put your parish kind of on the map with that, able to really round up a lot of criminals with those viral videos. Tell us a little bit about that strategy.
Well, I threw away the script. That's my nature. When I was asked to fulfill that duty position, I've been a street cop now for 12, 13 years. And in November of 2014, my sheriff asked me to be his public information officer. A small part of that job was performing the public service announcements called Crime Stoppers once a week. And my nature is to speak candidly and from my heart. So I did so. I would research the crime and then address the nature of the crime. What did it really mean about, our country that such a thing could even happen, and the pain of the victim, the invasion of the victim's home. That these are not just numbers on a report. These are people. These are our fellow Americans who have been injured, hurt, damaged in some way. And I always address the suspect as a fellow American, fellow child of God, failed and fallen, yes, but aren't we all in some way? And I believe in the redemptive nature of every human being. So although I expected to hold the suspect accountable for his actions, I also believed in him as a man and his ability to accept responsibility and move forward towards, a redeemed life, within his own soul and within his own heart. And somehow I was able to communicate that through the camera, and it did touch people's minds and hearts and souls. And during the course of the time that I was the public information officer for the sheriff, 19 felons, 18 men and 1 woman, presented themselves peacefully to the sheriff's office and turned themselves in. That's unprecedented. And then when we did the Gremlins video, which was my final Crime Stoppers video, that's the one that there was somewhat of an uproar, and because I found myself principally opposed to the commands I was given by my sheriff, I had to resign as a matter of principle. I became sort of a conscientious objector. You understand? I'll follow any order, but if it's contrary to my deep conscience, then of course I'm bound, by a higher law to step down, which I did. Since then, of the 7 gremlins that we were looking for, these were some hyper violent guys, man. They were out there doing wrong. Since then, within a few weeks, 3 of them turned themselves in, and then over the course of the last 8 months or so, the other 4 have been captured. So, yes, ma'am, we were very successful with the Crime Stoppers videos. And you know what? That door closed, and God opened another one. Yeah. So that's where I am now.
Well, I actually saw that Gremlins video. It was pretty badass. That was why I was like, we've got to get this guy on the show. That was so wonderful. But of course, you did talk a little tough in it, and some people were a little offended. They said that was a little too tough. How dare you speak to these hyper-violent criminals in a derogatory way? How did you feel about that?
Well, you anticipate that, but street talk is tough talk. Mm-hmm. And if you're a street cop talking to street criminals, then you use street language, and that's just reality, man. We live in a society now that's very protected, shall we say, insulated from the horrors of the street, by and large, and so you get this politically correct crap from the world about, please don't hurt anybody's feelings, while they're shooting families in the head. This is the nature of the country we live in now. I just don't participate in it. I will not participate in gossip. It's the cheapest form of human communication, and I will not participate in political correctness, because it's a venom, man. It's a cancer that's destroying our country. This is we live in the United States of America. Our First Amendment guarantees our free speech. This is of course the foundation of our freedoms. It's a cornerstone of who we are and what we are. And yet we've allowed insidious forces to impose upon us the restriction of our speech and the restriction of our emotions in some manner, as if they're right and we're wrong. Well, listen, every one of my fellow Americans, regardless of ideology, color, creed, political affiliation, social background, ethnicity, we all have earned the right by the blood that's been shed by patriots, by the heritage of our family. Every single one of our families has woven the thread of our flag. We stand in the shade of the glory of that one flag that's been woven by an entire nation of people of every imaginable color and creed, and we have the right to speak our mind.
Right.
So I'm just not participating in political correctness.
Right.
When I go to Washington, I'm not participating in that game up there either. They're gonna find out.
Well, the nation is obviously ready for brave people to stand up and speak out like that. Now, speaking of tough talk, what did you think about Obama's response to all of these fallen officers getting shot in the street in Obama's America?
As a constitutionalist, I have deep respect for the position of commander-in-chief. You'll rarely find me saying a disparaging word in private or public about the man that holds that office. I've been continually disappointed in the message and the rhetoric that has come out of my White House, because that White House doesn't belong to President Obama, nor did it belong to President Bush, nor any before them. It belongs to the American people, and those in D.C. and the Beltway, the career politicians that have seized power in Washington, need to hear Lima Charlie that the people are about to take this country back. So you ask me how I feel about some of the things he said, ma'am, it would require me to say ugly things. And I'm just not going to say that about my president. I have been, to my heart and soul, very disappointed. Just at the time when he had such an opportunity for leadership, man, from his unique position as our first African-American president, he really, really could have made things better. But that certainly hasn't happened, has it?
And obviously taking that opportunity to push for more gun control. Where do you stand on that?
Well, our Second Amendment clearly defines, gun control. Listen, it wasn't even until the 60s that guns were regulated at all. In the 50s, a child, any child, could buy a gun from any seller if daddy sent him with the money. It wasn't until the 60s we even had serial numbers mandated on guns. I grew up in the 70s, went to a large rural high school. Every vehicle in the parking lot, mostly on teachers and student side, was a pickup truck, and most every vehicle had a rifle or shotgun in the back glass, and nobody got shot. The availability of guns in our country has been more restricted over the last several decades, where you're starting to see these mass shootings and whatnot. So you have to ask yourself, what's going on, man? It's a breakdown of the family. It's a breakdown of our culture. And personally, I think it's our national shame of how we address mental illness in our country. We have a history of failure in that. Now, I don't know of any country that handles it right. I'm just talking about America. And you always look into the background of these mass shooters, and those are the guys pulling the triggers. And if you look at their history, there's always some kind of mental, challenge that they face that's been handled with mostly with pharmaceutical drugs that Christ knows what's in that stuff. And I just don't think that restriction of gun rights and ownership rights for guns, or restriction of the type of guns that we already have many restrictions. We are certainly well regulated, are we not?
Right.
I mean, people talk about military weapons. American civilians can't own tanks, and we can't own calibers over 50 caliber. We in order to own an automatic weapon, where by that I mean you pull the trigger one time and more than one bullet comes out, You have to pay for a very expensive license. It's an extensive background check, takes months. And then you have to maintain that license, which is expensive every year, which is why very few Americans have that. So we're already heavily restricted. The shootings that we're looking at right now are not because of guns. It's because of the people holding them, and perhaps of a systematic failure in our nation to deal with mental illness. That's where I stand on that.
Absolutely, and poverty, and of course, as we see, most of the states with the most strict gun laws are where we're seeing most of the violence. So, just final question: Why are you now running for office? What prompted that, and how can people find more information?
My campaign website is CaptainHiggins.com. Real simple. I never anticipated being able to serve my country at this level, at a federal level. I am a patriot. I served my country honorably in the Army. I was a military police officer, and I've been a street cop now for over 12 years. And I'm a patriot, and I'm responding to the call to duty. I have millions of fans across the country. When I resigned, I can't tell you how many thousands and thousands of messages I received. Very humbling and uplifting, just unbelievable messages of love and encouragement and support, asking me, begging me to run for federal office. So this hit me at a time in my life where I was pondering. I had resigned from my job, man, and I'm a simple guy, a humble guy. My wife and I, this was a difficult decision to embrace. I knew it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing I could do and still be me, was to resign. But at the same time, it was frightening, to step away from the paycheck. And so it was during that time period in my life when we were very prayerful, my wife and I, about, what did God have in mind. Of course, I had many job offers in law enforcement. I'm still a cop. I'm a deputy marshal now, but I'm on a reserve status now. I'm not drawing a check because I'm running for office. But it was during that period of time, ma'am, after I resigned, that I was seeking from bended knee, what did my Father have in mind for me? And that's when all these thousands of messages came to me from across the country to please run for office. And I was approached by fans within the political realm out of Baton Rouge, it's the capital of Louisiana, and D.C. Big fans, man, that had asking for nothing in exchange. They just really wanted Captain Higgins in Washington. So they talked to each other, communicated, and then reached out to me and asked me to meet with them, and they laid out a plan. So I was blown away by that, quite frankly. I was just completely humbled, and because I never anticipated being able to serve at that level. But gradually, over the course of a few weeks, ma'am, my wife and I embraced this as the clear path that had been prepared for me, which is why I know we'll be victorious. We shall be. We'll win, and we will win soundly.
Yes, and what's the message that you want to bring to Washington?
Listen, that's a long answer. I'm going to make it brief. We, the people, have been betrayed by the thieves in suits that have seized power in Washington, D.C. Our nation must be restored to the parameters of reason established by our founding fathers. And I'm a constitutionalist guy. I'm bringing a clear message of constitutional principles. That's not just a talk I talk, it's a walk that I walk with my life. I'm not even running for this office. I'm descending into the belly of the beast. I'm going into the Leviathan that has become our nation's capital and our federal government, and I'm bringing sound constitutional principles with me, the true voice of real Americans that work hard, pay their taxes, understand struggle, and we've been completely betrayed by the career politicians that have seized power there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to some more viral videos. And
yes, ma'am.
That's Captain Higgins, CaptainHiggins.com. You all stay tuned to Infowars.com for more reports.
Thank you, ma'am.